Lights, camera, pants? SpongeBob Lights Camera Pants was a gem to have on your shelf back in the day because it gave you thousands of dollars worth of games. Mario Kart got you covered. Guitar Hero, you bet. FIFA, Diner Dash, Flappy Bird, it's all there. This was an absurdly ambitious party game between its 30 mini-games, customizable movie, and 6 playable characters.
I'm winning because I'm aggressive.
Well, truth be told, it's more like 28 mini-games because the worst 2 are just tiebreakers. But I'm gonna go ahead and rank all 30 anyway in the spirit of completeness. Starting with the first of those tiebreakers, 2-Up. Our bottom of the barrel entry in the number 30 spot is one that I luckily never even knew existed back in the day, because the only way you even find this game is by getting a very rare 3-way tie. So what makes this mysterious, elusive game that most of us have never even seen so special? Absolutely nothing. You press X and it randomly selects a winner. F tier. And for number 29, we have our other tiebreaker game, Rock, Paper, Scissors. While it's better than 2-Up, since it at least gives you the illusion of choice, it is local multiplayer. Playing this is like texting someone who's sitting right beside you. It's like door-dashing Chick-fil-A while sitting in a Chick-fil-A. I like that the items are bubbles and how the buttons on the PlayStation 2 version mirror the choices, but this is literally just Rock, Paper, Scissors, F tier. All right, now from here on, we only have actual games. But even so, one of them unfortunately has to get the wooden spoon, Rope Burn. I honestly think this is the only minigame I straight up dislike, which is a good testament to how great Lights Camera Pants is. It's a team game where one player climbs a rope and the other one keeps it charged with color-coded batteries. It ranks quite low though because the game does very little to rope you in. And while most of the games make great use of the SpongeBob license, this one doesn't even seem that clear on where it's supposed to take place. I've always thought they should have picked an actual SpongeBob landmark or just cut this game out altogether. D tier. Number 27 is actually a decently fun game that just has the problem of being too easy to master. Pedal of Honor. You ride bicycles and do a bunch of tricks. The best thing about this minigame has got to be how creative they got with the naming conventions. You did a double flip? Well, I do believe you mean you did a king jellyfish. Raised your hands and backflipped? That's called the Strangler. You pass by Mrs. Puff's boating school landmarks along the way, and you dodge a bunch of obstacles. The reason it ranks towards the bottom, though, is the low skill ceiling, because once you learn what the best combos are, you really have no reason to vary them. Longer tricks award more points, so you'll always just do the longest trick you can. My sister loved this game growing up, so I can see the appeal, but I just find it gets old pretty quickly. D tier. Rubble Rabble is a team game referencing that episode where Mrs. Puff goes to jail. Rocks come in from the side, and you try to break them by spamming X before they can reach the middle. It's alright overall gameplay-wise. The main issue with it is its reliance on luck, since you can play perfectly and still lose. And for some reason, the most valuable rock, the giant blue rock, doesn't ever spawn in for Team 2, making it where Team 1 will generally win unless they truly mess up. Oh, also there are these fart rocks that don't really do anything but fart. So while the scoring is definitely a little rigged, there's enough fun in this one to earn a place in C tier. Machine Meltdown is stressful. It reminds me a lot of the puppet mechanic in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, but instead there are 10 of them and Karen is shouting at you the whole time.
Team 2, machine efficiency 75%. Meltdown. Team 1, repair your generator immediately.
The timers are constantly ticking down while you and a teammate try to keep things running. While I do think there is a specific audience for this type of game, it's not for me. Also, if you remove the SpongeBob characters, I don't even think you'd know it was in a SpongeBob game. It's supposed to take place in the Chum Bucket, but the vast majority of it just looks like a random generic factory. There's enough polish to the gameplay that I can still somewhat appreciate it, but there are a lot of better minigames on this game. C tier. At number 24, we got The Bouncers. This is a team one where you and a partner juggle items all the way to the finish line by simply pressing left and right. I think the biggest strength of this one is the sound design, since it's genuinely satisfying to hear the rhythm of the items as they bounce.
Close.
Each time you bounce an item, your team is awarded points, and there's no randomness involved, so there's actually a set ceiling to what you can earn. I like that it takes place in the Krusty Krab, and as a kid I always assumed that one team was in the Krusty Krab 2 or something since the items are coming from the same spot. Like Pedal of Honor, this one's a lot of fun, but is pretty easy to master, which unfortunately makes it feel kind of slow once you know what you're doing. As a kid, this was one of my favorites, but to me today, I think that it's simply outdone by most other games on the list, so I'm gonna put it in C tier. Wait and See is a scramble to complete the list of weight patterns as fast as possible. I love the setting and the stuffed animal weights in the background, and the music for it goes pretty hard too. You move faster or slower depending on the color of the weight you grab, and then you help either Larry or Don the Well get it up when the pattern is complete. This is one of those mini games where it's pretty easy to exploit the CPU, since even on the smart difficulty, they'll generally go for the green weights at the start. And with there only being a total of 7 green weights at the start, if you're quick enough, you can consistently make them have to just sit there twiddling their thumbs for 15 seconds at the start of each game, making it stupid easy to win. Still a fun time and my wife's favorite in the collection, C tier. Number 22 is a notorious game that I think gets too bad of a rap by the LCP community. The Tide Piper. It's a team game where one player turns nearby jellyfish their team's color, and the other player captures them. The reason for the hate for this one is that you're constantly getting knocked over by the enemy team's Piper, and the getting up animation is slow as Christmas. Also, the CPU for the netters is laughably bad for some reason with this one. One thing you'll notice throughout this video is that the skill of the CPU varies significantly depending on which game we're talking about. And in this game's case, getting teamed up with a clanker is as useful as getting paired with Patrick's pet rock. So if we're only talking about the solo experience, yeah, this one would rank pretty low. But with friends, it's surprisingly one of the more competitive games, so I think it averages out to high C tier. What places in the number 21 spot? Beats me! This is the simplest of the 3 rhythm games since you only got 2 buttons to press. So depending on what kind of gamer you are, you'll either find this one is really easy or really hard. It has a fun beat to it, and even though the game's dynamic tempo has a tendency towards desyncing from the music a little here and there, I don't find it too challenging to beat, cause I got some rhythm! The only really obnoxious thing about it is that even if you play a perfect game, it's impossible to earn all 5,000 points in story mode, which especially sucks in gold story mode since the thresholds for getting the rolls are so high. I still enjoy it though, and it squeaks into B tier. At number 20, we have the second of the 3 rhythm games, Jig on the Brig. I like the increased difficulty from Beats Me since now we're using several buttons rather than just 2 of them. And making it where you dance with your opponents gives it this cool paradoxical feeling where you are wanting them to mess up, but you also kind of want to see y'all dance good together. Setting-wise though, this one's a bit odd in my opinion because even though it claims to be taking place in Sand Stadium, I've always thought it looks a little more like the stage in Shrek the Third. A fun one that's unfortunately eclipsed by another rhythm game down the line that does the same stuff but better. Still a solid B tier entry. Number 19 is Blistering Barnacles. You scrape barnacles off of the sea needle with a teammate, moving up and down in sync while trying to keep your bucket from sliding too far left or right. It's oddly satisfying and kind of reminds me of Power Wash Simulator. The big barnacle in particular feels great to defeat since it has multiple layers to it, and I like that bonus points are awarded to the team that finishes the swarm first. The main issues with this game are that the CPU is quite particular about vertical positioning and often just stands still. The pacing constantly halts between each swarm if everyone knows what they're doing, and the soundtrack sounds like it was ripped straight from Yoda's Activity Center. Blistering Barnacles belongs in B tier. Number 18 is the very first minigame you play in the story mode, Flippin Out. You flip off burgers to your teammate and catch the burgers they flip off to you. Its controls are quite simple and do a great job easing you into the game. It starts off easy, but quickly gets pretty challenging as it speeds up, which is nice because it keeps it competitive when playing with friends. I like how the bad patty is Plankton's maximum overdrive patty. The designers of this game did a great job with making even the small details feel married to the SpongeBob universe. Also, I don't bring up the music in these minigames often just because of how great the tracks for so many of them are, but this one especially. What a banger of a tune. Another classic B tier entry. Next up, we got Flingin and Swingin, which actually happens to be the last minigame you play in the story mode. I absolutely adore the high skill ceiling, since the physics in this one are loose but consistent. The CPU in this one is interesting because they seem bad at first until you realize that you can actually direct them pretty easily. The only reason this one ranks kind of low is because of aesthetics and the lack of interaction between teams. In general, the downtown Bikini Bottom levels haven't really felt as firmly in the SpongeBob universe to me, and I think that going with something like the side of the flying Dutchman's ship or something would have been more interesting. Also, since you're not pegging the same wall as your opponents, it doesn't really feel like you're directly competing with them. I think it'd be much cooler if they were on the same wall and there was a way to knock each other off. Overall, a solid minigame that takes time and practice to master. B tier. Order Up is such a cool game in concept. I absolutely love the idea of making a Diner Dash style game where you work at the Krusty Krab. One player takes the orders, their teammate makes the orders, and they switch up at the halfway point. It's interesting seeing coral rings as a prominent menu item, and the only thing I really find annoying here is the slow input when you're making the orders. The CPU is able to input stuff instantly, so they always have an unfair advantage. Also, I find I wish you could make the Krabby Patties to a certain degree, rather than just picking them up out of a basket. But I also understand the appeal of keeping it simple. They absolutely nailed the taking orders side though, since it's both satisfying and fun. So even though one side feels more polished than the other, I mean, who doesn't love the idea of working a shift at the Krusty Krab? B tier. Jellyfish Swish is a game I quite enjoy, but also find frustrating. You're bungee jumping while trying to catch jellyfish, and the goal is to get as many as you can at once for a big combo. The trouble is the hit detection. The harder the difficulty, the smaller the hitbox range of your net. Makes sense on paper, but the issue is there are literal gaps between the frames when you capture them, so it often looks like your net is directly on a jellyfish and you still don't capture it. Funnily enough, this actually applies to the CPU on smart difficulty as well, and because they're all using the same AI, ironically, silly difficulty is significantly harder. It's a fun time at the end of the day though, and just needs a little bit of polish. B tier. Jellyfish Jamboree is a simple but fun game. You catch jellyfish with a max of 5 in your net at once, and then launch it into the jam collector with your face on it. A cool detail on this one is how if you miss and hit someone else's jam collector, it actually gives them the points. About the challenge, how competitive this one is depends entirely on if you're facing the CPU or other humans. Because if you're facing the CPU, you'll have no trouble consistently getting all 5 jellyfish because they're quite bad. But still though, it has a fun gameplay loop, especially with friends. So I'm gonna put it in high B tier. At lucky number 13, we have Surface Tension. This one has you running around, popping bubbles of different values. The coolest thing about this one is how if someone gets a little too close to the bubble holes, they'll fall in and be able to get popped by you for lots of points. The dirty bubble shows up as well and is worth a lot of points if you manage to pop them. And this game randomly gives you a dash button that you'll probably never use. I like how competitive this one gets when playing with some friends, and the only actual problem with it to me is the luck-dependent nature of the game. But it's fun though, so who cares? A tier. Number 12 is Tethered and Weathered, a game most of you have never seen because it's locked behind beating the game 3 freaking times. So yeah, unless you've done that, you haven't seen this one. Yeah, think Neptune, they got cheat codes though. This is another example of fun with 4 players, but annoying with the CPU. And I think that's the main reason people tend towards disliking it. Because for a lot of people, getting a full 4-player game going without online multiplayer is quite a challenge. Which on a side note, how cool would it be if we got a sequel to this game which included online multiplayer? I genuinely think this game was held back a ton by coming out in 2005 and not being very accessible beyond 2 players. THQ Nordic, if you're listening to this, I would be willing to bet that most people watching this video would be willing to throw their money at you for a well-made Lights Camera Pants 2. Just saying. But anyways, I like what this game is going for since it kind of forces you to thread the needle with the timing. If you're in the air, you get points by collecting these clams. But once you have 3 clams, you can't collect anymore and you have to throw them down to your teammates. Either team can grab the clams after they've been thrown, so there's always tension in the timing of it. This makes it where there's a stronger direct interaction between the teams compared to most other minigames. Aesthetically, you gotta love the unique character designs they made just for this minigame. Like how Squidward got his Boat Smarts costume, Krabs got a pirate ship barrel, and SpongeBob straight up transforms into a box kite. Tethered and Weathered's controls may feel a little funky at first, but it's always fun and competitive with friends. Solid A tier. Now here's number 11, Surf Resc-Goo. Items are floating out to sea and you got your trusty fishing rod handy. The sun is out and that army of beach balls isn't gonna catch itself. Surf Resc-Goo is the finale of the Goo Lagoon world and it is such a classic, fun time. The further an item goes out, the more points you get for getting it, but the longer it takes to reel in. When you're playing with people that know what they're doing, this one does sort of have that same problem that Blistering Barnacles has, where you're having to wait a little bit between waves. But I think it works out better here because you're directly competing with people rather than fishing in separate lakes or something. Aesthetically, I thought it was really smart to use the buoys in a way that indicates distance relative to the charge bar. And my only major gripe with it is that hard mode reduces your net's range to a point where the outermost beach balls are physically impossible to catch. It's an annoying oversight, but nothing game-breaking. Overall, Surf Rescue is a flawed but easy to enjoy game that works both with your friends or the CPU. A tier. Alright, y'all. Our first entry in the top 10 is another one that most of you have never even seen. Hook, Line, and Cheddar. This one is way easier to unlock than Tethered and Weathered since it only requires you to beat the story mode twice. Hook, Line, and Cheddar is a competitive one where you either go in the upper half of the screen and try to grab some cheese, or go beneath the other players doing that to try and launch a hook straight up their pants to drag them off screen and get you lots of points. Going for the cheese tends to be the safer option, but trying to hook up your friends can completely win you the game with how many points it earns. Especially since one skilled hook can get 3 players off screen at once. This one takes a minute to get used to and has a well-designed risk-reward balance to it. I like that it lets you get so many people at once with a hook, and that the cheese references the episode Hooky. Another A-tier entry that's always a great time. Number 9 is Charge. This one's an edge-of-your-seat sprint that's all about conquering land as fast as possible. You get points by gaining control of territory through shocking pegs and creating triangles. The AI for the CPU is really bad here, and for some reason, they've run at a lower top speed than the human players. That makes it where, when you're playing solo, it feels a little too easy, but when you're facing other humans, it's another one that feels quite competitive quickly. The positional gameplay is very naturally baked into this one. Do you play it safe and go for the edge? Or do you try to cover more ground and gun for the middle? Do you try and sneak to where no one else is at and conquer that area for yourself? Or invade someone else's established area to hurt them in the process? I really like this one, and the only other issues I really have are that the camera and the room are spinning, which can make it a little nauseating. Also aesthetically, like a couple of the ones earlier, it doesn't exactly scream SpongeBob. It does look cleaner than the old version they showed in a trailer, but despite the update, this one's at its best mechanically rather than visually. Still got a spot in A tier though. Breakin Out has you become a prison escape accomplice as you help Bikini Bottom inmates escape Bikini Bottom jail. They put their little bed sheets together and make this little rope hanging out their little windows, and you run up to them to have them jump in your basket for a quick escape. Searchlights are moseying on around the prison yard, and if one of them catches you, it'll send a hook that'll go straight up your pants and snatch you to a prison cell. This game goes strategically deeper than you'd imagine, since you can intentionally get the searchlights to look at you and try to pass them off to your opponents before they can snatch you. Also, there's only 3 windows despite there being 4 players, so that bit of scarcity makes timing important. Funnily enough, this game has the same dash mechanic we saw earlier in Surface Tension, but this time it's actually pretty useful once you get the hang of it. I really don't have any negative notes on this one. Whether you're facing your friends or the CPU, Breakin Out's a great time. High A tier. Number 7 is another bonus game locked behind beating the main story, though luckily this time only once. Mother of Pearl. I really enjoy this one since it's like a 4-player version of Pong that gets crazy chaotic with how many pearls spawn in at once. You can put some spin on the pearls if you hit them right, and if you're able to time when you thrust your rod forward, you can determine how much speed you put on them as well. I really like the use of Clamu for this one since it's a creative reference to the show, and I really can't think of any other SpongeBob game that lets you go in her exhibit at the Bikini Bottom Zoo. Something kind of odd about this one is that the CPU is actually harder on silly mode than on smart mode, since the AI itself is the same, but they get the same extra long rod that the player gets on easy mode and a shorter rod that the player gets on hard mode. It's a small oversight that I thought was kind of funny. Overall, I really enjoyed this one, and it seems like most other people do too. High A tier. This next one, I kind of slept on as a kid. Seahorse Stampede. 2-on-2 prison soccer. I used to not like this one since the CPU isn't that great, and you can easily win by manipulating the goalie's blind spots. It's a totally different vibe though with actual people. After playing this one with some friends the other day, this might have been the one we had the most fun with over the entire session. You can pass the ball to your teammates, steal the ball from your opponents, and use the shooting mechanic to clear the ball out of your defensive zone. It's another positional strategy game that forces you to make make the most out of only having 2 players? Do you hang back and play defense while your teammate tries to score on offense? Or do you take advantage of offsides not being a thing and hang out by the goal to capitalize on a well-placed pass? This game combines a lot of the best qualities that I always look for in a Lights, Camera, Pants minigame. Direct interaction between all players, multiple strong gameplay strategies, fair chaos, good music, a high skill ceiling. Really, the only thing this one is lacking is a very good aesthetic. It's not that it looks bad, it's just that we've already had 2 other games that used the prison aesthetic and did it more meaningfully. So as big as the SpongeBob universe is, why not place this one in the kelp forest or rock bottom or literally anywhere other than where we're at? If we're talking just the solo experience against CPU, I'd say this one probably goes in C tier, but if you got a good group of people to play with, I mean, this one easily goes in A tier, on the borderline of S tier. It's a great time. Finally entering into the top 5, and it happens to be the rarest actual game in the entire Lights, Camera, Pants collection. Loot Scootin. Why did you never play this one growing up, I hear you ask? Well, the requirements to unlock this one are absolutely, unequivocally insane. Not only do you have to beat the game 3 times, you also have to beat all of the challenges for the other rare to unlock bonus games. That makes it where no one ever hardly sees this game outside of using cheat codes or something, and it's such a shame because this one's a lot of fun. You collect treasure from the front of the Flying Dutchman's pirate ship and try to carefully bring it over to the treasure chest on the opposite side. The ship is constantly shifting and so are the 2 balls and chest in it. The more treasure you have at once, the harder it is to balance on the way back. This one is the poster child of simple risk versus reward. You could just grab 1 bar of gold and it'll keep you running fast and unable to drop it unless one of the balls smack you in the face, or you can go grab 10, which is the max you can carry, but it'll make you walk pretty slow and easily thrown off balance. I find there's oddly enough a decent difficulty gap between carrying 9 bars at a time and carrying 10 bars at a time, so if your goal is to max out, you probably would rather go with the 9 bars. Though the overall meta seems to be more around 6 or 7 at a time, since you need some degree of speed to be able to dodge the balls in the Dutchman's hand. I've seen some people only grabbing 1 bar at a time the whole game, and other people grabbing 10 over and over and failing the whole time, and this is one of those games that has still got a long way to go to master. It's kind of funny that this is the only model we ever see of the Flying Dutchman, and the only things that suck about this one are the low CPU intelligence and the way that your bars delete if they even slightly make contact with a wall. Still though, this one's a great time, and if you don't want to jump through the 30,000 hoops they placed in front of it, use this cheat code and go check it out, because it absolutely deserves to be our first S tier entry. But number 4, remember how I was talking about 3 rhythm games earlier? Well, this is the final one, and it isn't placed 2 entire tiers higher on accident. Rock Bottom, an excellent name for an excellent game that really feels like a celebration of the SpongeBob series. You're in a band playing 6 different songs with your friends in front of a crowd at Sand Stadium. This is one of the few games where it actually kind of matters which of the 6 playable characters you choose, since all of them have their own unique instruments and solo sections. Fun fact, the max score you can achieve is 1,003 points with perfect play, but with Squidward, the max is only 1,000. I can't really tell if it's intentional or not, because it almost feels like they slipped in a joke about Squidward being a bad musician, and I find that hilarious. The gameplay is satisfying since playing well makes the music sound better, and the only real issue with it is the funky input system. Basically, the game is fine with you pressing the buttons a little early, 0.35 seconds early on easy, or 0.16 seconds early on hard, but even 1 frame late on any difficulty, and it counts as a miss. So if you try to time the buttons perfectly in the middle, you'll probably get frustrated since it will likely feel inconsistent, but once you know that quirk about the timing, it's pretty fair. While this one does have lower gameplay depth than some of the other top entries, it makes up for it through overall presentation and this intangible SpongeBob magic. Absolutely a fun time, and it kind of makes me happy every time I play it. S tier. Number 3 on our list is yet again another fantastic minigame, Inflatable Pants. I am blown away with just the sheer volume of how many great games are included in Lights, Camera, Pants. And to explain the gameplay some, here's a Greek metaphor.
They say Icarus fell because he flew too close to the sun with wings of wax and feathers. But had he flown too close to the ocean, the spray and mist of the sea would have overburdened his wings, drowning him. Balance your vertical positioning or be critically punished.
But anyway, Inflatable Pants is sort of like Flappy Bird, but instead of just surviving, you're also racing the other players. You gotta navigate through the nets, avoiding the obstacles along the way, and whoever's the first one to pass the net gets the biggest share of the points. It starts off a bit slow, but since it's gradually speeding up as you go, by the end of it, it's genuinely a challenge to stay in front the whole time. I like how this game is a reference to Patty Hype and the Sponge Who Could Fly, and between its great SpongeBob aesthetic, surprising gameplay depth, and the fact that it's almost as fun against the CPU as it is against friends, Inflatable Pants earns its spot in S tier without a doubt. Alright, y'all, we might be getting a little spicy up in here because number 2 is probably gonna read as a hot take to many of you, but I genuinely adore Floret. Floret? I adore it! Floret, 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 yeah, explore it. Floret! 3 1-minute races on 3 different tracks using the actual obstacles we see in Mrs. Puff's boating school. Talk about direct references. I've always enjoyed dodging this random brick wall labeled wall, for example. The track layout is especially clever since you're forced into a sharp left turn right before the wall appears, so avoiding it actually takes conscious effort. This one is super competitive since the physics do a great job balancing maneuverability, skill expression, and ability to use your car as a battering ram. It's the only fully 3D game on the list and has a smart scoring system where the overall winner is whoever has the lowest combined time across all 3 races. There are speed boosts, oil spills, and rough terrains that slow you down. You constantly get to hear the best Mr. Krabs line.
Oh, I'm quick.
And can I just say, thank Neptune, they actually got Clancy Brown to voice Mr. Krabs in this game.
Your treasure chest's looking a bit...
The only weaknesses on this minigame are the funky drifting controls, since they kind of do more harm than good generally, and the fact that you can't mathematically get all 5,000 points in story mode, plus the long wait you experience when you're waiting on the other players if you tend towards finishing quickly like me. Florida's an absolute classic, and I think it's about time we give it its flowers. S tier through and through. There's nowhere else it can go. I love this game. Moving on to the number 1 spot. 29 minigames later, and we finally get to the number 1 spot. The undisputed best game of all of Lights, Camera, Pants is, of course, Goo-Ladiators. This minigame is an all-out war. Your vehicle, a unicycle. Your weapon, a goo squirter. You can squirt all over your opponents rapidly with a quick squirt, peppering them up nicely, or charge it up to catch someone off guard by shooting them with a huge wad of goo that can easily fling them off the map if you're able to connect with it. There are giant bumper tires that change position throughout the game, and it does a great job rewarding players who combine aggression and tactics, knowing not only when to attack, but how and from where. This is arguably the most competitive game out of the entire bunch, and one of the hardest to truly master. The skill ceiling goes higher than any other game on this list, due to the reactive physics and the need to learn multiple gameplay styles. You often gotta switch your approach on a dime depending on the situation, because sometimes sniping from the middle of the platform is the right move to try and launch multiple players at once, but other times it's better to blitz someone with rapid fire when they're between you and the edge. The game awards 1 point for each shot that makes contact, and 10 for each player you knock into the goo. So even if you're not able to finish the job, there's almost always strategic benefit to landing your shots. It does take some time to get used to the slippery controls, but it's super satisfying how it always feels like you can get better. Goo-Ladiators is the final boss of player versus player chaos. The crown jewel of Lights, Camera, Pants, and easily an S tier. With Lights, Camera, Pants, I love how all the minigames actually serve a greater purpose, since the entire time you're making a movie using whoever gets the most audition points in each section. You can see Squidward play the sneaky hermit, or SpongeBob, or Sandy, or Patrick, or whoever. They literally recorded lines and made custom animations for all 6 playable characters and all 9 different scenes they can star in, amassing to a grand total of 10,077,696 possible different movie combinations. Seriously, this game was ridiculously ambitious. I like how once you beat story mode, you unlock a custom movie maker that lets you cast whoever you'd like, since generally if you're winning on story mode, you'll just see your own character over and over. Overall, if you haven't played this game, you've definitely been sleeping on it. The developers clearly had a lot of love for SpongeBob, and it shows up in the tiniest of details, like pulling the character UI from different episodes. Let me know what minigame you would have personally ranked higher, and if you'd play a Lights, Camera, Pants 2 if it came out today. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic day.